Hello, my fellow guitar players, my fellow passionate guitar players. This one that I'm recording is quite a different video than what you usually see from me. This one is a deep dive on my method. So the reason why my method on improvisation over chord changes, right? So the reason why I'm recording this is because, you know, some of you might have watched a few lessons from me, or might have heard me playing, or maybe teaching some students or whatever, or maybe the infographics that I share. This one is actually based on this infographic that you see right here that I posted a few days ago. And anyway, let's cut to the chase. This one is to show the people who are really interested in understanding what is happening here, and here. This one is for the people who really want to understand this in depth. And possibly, if you really stay with me through the end and put some time and effort to it, you probably get a lot out of this. That's what I'm hoping for. So let's do this. This one is about improvisation over chord changes. And I'm gonna break down, of course, not my entire method, but one of the most nuclear aspects of it. So without further ado, before I continue explaining the concept here, let me just play for you a little bit so you can actually hear it and you can actually see how it works practically before we dive deep. Let's do this. So the chord progression that we are working with is actually one of the simplest chord progressions in music. And we're gonna work with a very easy key. So C major, no sharps, no flats. And the chord progression is the 2-5-1. So D minor, G dominant, C major. Okay, let's listen to this first. Actually, before we listen, let me explain to you that once this whole method of this 40-minute lesson actually makes full sense to you and you're able to apply it, you don't even have to apply it on the same chord progression that I'm showing you. This is an example. This is like a case study. You can, of course, start with this. That's a great starting point. But the thing is, my point is that after this chord progression, it's what you should really do is apply it on other chord progressions as well, and on other keys, and eventually on complete tune structures, harmonic forms of tunes. That's the end goal, right? So let's listen to this before we play. D minor, our 2 chord. G dominant, our 5 chord. C major, our 1 chord. 2-5-1. 3. So like simplicity, you know? Anyway, I don't want to really like play for forever and ever. I just like wanted to show you so we can move on and you can really understand what this lesson is about now. So you heard it. This lesson is about what you just heard. Let's do this. I went on purpose from like here to here and back here just to show you like how this concept can liberate the entire spectrum of your fretboard and your entire melodic expression. Because let's face it, sometimes you want to play melodies that are quite low, right? And sometimes you want to play melodies that are quite high. You know what I mean? So it's like it's really important to be able to improvise freely and fluently wherever you are on the fretboard. So let's actually break this down into some main elements and some main concepts. Okay, so the first thing I have to say is that those of you who have been really following me know and realize that I have been talking a lot about the concept of stop practicing scales. And it's kind of like, it brings up a lot of arguments amongst guitar players. What do you mean stop practicing scales? Everything is created out of scales. What I mean is basically it doesn't give you anything if all you do is like, okay, D Dorian, G Mixolydian, you know, and C major, like up and down scales, and then you try to put those scales in a backing track and play. It's not really gonna work. I mean, it will have some great moments, for sure, you'll have some great moments, but you rely a lot on luck. You rely a lot on trial, error. And the contrast between luck, trial, error, and what I just played just like a minute or two ago, the difference is that there is confidence. You know that whatever happens, I'm not gonna mess up. Like, I'm gonna play stuff that I really mean, that I really intend to. Basically, this concept that I'm explaining is allowing us to have a clear connection between our inner voice and how we express this inner voice on the instrument. So what is this concept really? It is simple. It's not easy, but it's simple. It's about your melody and your harmony being one. Don't treat them as two separate things. Okay, now I'll play chords. Okay, now I'll play melodies. Yeah, that's fine, but really, even when you play only melodies, you are really playing over chords. And even when you're playing chords, your chordal playing has some kind of melodic aspect to it. So together today, we will learn how to combine the two, and instead of playing music like an average guitar player, learn how to play like a musician instead. This is what musicians do, you know, especially musicians like jazz musicians, for example. Although this is not really deep into jazz, it's not, but jazz musicians are good in really like liberating their musical expression by combining melody and harmony together. Any kind of jazz instrumentalist will do it, from a double bassist to a trumpet player to a guitar player to a piano player. So this is not about jazz today. However, we'll take some elements from the jazz method and bring them forward in a way that you can liberate your musical expression on any style that you want to play. Okay, this is not stylistic to jazz. This is about any style that you want to play. So let's dive deep, combining melody with harmony. The first thing I want you to really understand in order to be able to move forward is the concept of melodic gravity. The pull. What is the pull? The pull from one note to the next note. So think of it this way. That's exactly what my diagram is talking about. Here it is again. And I'm also going to provide a link in the comment section below so you can see it. You can have it while you're working your way through this. So for example, let's go and play this F note. When I started my solo, I might have played something like, I don't know, like something like that. I don't remember exactly what I played because I was improvising, but like this F note here is basically the minor third of our D chord, of our D minor chord. You can hear it's a minor third, those of you who know your intervals and chord tones. If you don't, it's fine, you can still try and follow. So F. Now this F here has a certain pull. When I go to my G dominant, it's going here, for example, to the G of the G. So the F of the D minor is pulling to the G of the G dominant. And what if I switch to C major? The G can stay the same. So it's like F for D, G for G, G for C. Or like, let's go for F for our D, which pulls to the D of the G, which then pulls to the E of the C. So it's all about, between your chord changes, diving deep into their melodic connection. Listen to this. I'm just like playing and singing the top note of each chord, the highest note. Like, you know, let's start from another one. Let's start from like the A of the D minor, right? So it's like here, just a regular D minor triad. You know that, right? This one, my friends, the A, when we switch to the G dominant, it's pulling to the B. It's like, and this one is clearly pulling to the C of the C. So listen to this melody. But now in the harmonic context. So what? Okay. This kind of makes some kind of sense because it relates to what we hear. It makes oral sense for sure. How do we use that in our improvisation? Okay, let's look at a few examples. So there are basically like 3 ways to go about this. We go deeper now. There are 3 ways. Basically, I play a phrase. I'll just explain it to you in like 1 or 2 sentences, simply put. I play a phrase. My phrase lands on a particular tone of the D minor. Really understand the concept of target tones. Like a phrase will target a tone. It's like the last word of your sentence. My last word was sentence, right? So exactly same thing happens with your phrases when you play. They will target a tone. So what you need to do is you need this tone, first of all, to be the tone that you intended to play, regardless of the music theory. Leave the music theory aside. This tone that you target, whether you know notes or not, needs to be the tone that you really intended to play. So check this out. You hear a certain level of confidence in what I'm playing, right? It's not because I targeted the 5th, it's because I was hearing the 5th. But by the way, yes, I'm a formally educated musician. I went to study 4 years in a music university. I've been doing like tons of lessons before and after. And yes, I know that this is the 5th of the D minor, for sure. The A. So, you target this note. And then you have a chord coming up, another chord, the G dominant. What you need to do, the process, the oral and analytical process that I'm doing is that, okay, I'm here on the A for the D minor. And when I switch to G dominant, I need to see my options of neighboring voice leading. So basically this one will pull either to the B, which is the 3rd of the G dominant. So I'm gonna, or it will pull back to the root of the G dominant, the G, because those are the 2 closest available options. This one is the option if I want to descend melodically, and this one is the option if I want to ascend melodically, and this is where I was, okay? That's why it's not useful to think about shapes when you think about these kind of things. You need to really think about notes, music, instead of shapes, or at least think about one string horizontally if you cannot see the notes clearly. There are ways for people who do not know the notes really well, just like use one string. The A for the D minor pulls to the B for the G dominant. So it's like, or the A for the D minor pulls to the G for the G dominant. So let's hear this in context. This is when I ascend melodically. And now let's descend melodically. Let's play a different phrase. It's kind of so similar, sorry. Let's go like, yeah, okay, a bit more random. And then from here, something like that. So you hear that? It's like it's pulling to the G. and then the G has a certain relationship to the C major. It's a triple chord progression, right? So the D minor pulls to the G and the G pulls to the C. Concept of melodic gravity. So this is basically what's happening. If you sit down and analyze what I have provided and play around with it, like my graph, you will be able to like take advantage of all the possible melodic scenarios for neighboring voice leading. And this will start affecting the way that you treat your melodic phrases in a way that every time that you land on a note, you know your nearby options like that. To be honest with you, I'm not thinking when I'm playing these kind of things. I'm not thinking when I'm playing. I'm thinking when I'm practicing, yeah, sometimes, most of the times, but like when I'm playing, not practicing, but playing, I'm not really thinking, you know what I mean? I'm not going through a thought like analytical process. It's so automatic, you know? It's like, you know, or like, for example, the A to the G, okay? You know, these kind of things. So let's look at a few examples from my graph. Let's look at the first two. The first two is like D for D, like the root, which is a common tone with the D for the G dominant. It turns into the fifth, which is descending back to the C for the C major. So the melody is, this melody is played over 3 chords. So it's like, and what you can do is play around with it. So beautiful. And then like, and the second scenario is to go D, D, E. So like D for D minor, D for G dominant, and E for C major. So like, so these are just the first 2 examples. You can, let's continue. So let me just like play a little bit just to show you all the examples. I cannot really sit down on each one and explain it in super detail, just like have the sheet in front of you that I'm providing in the comments below or here on the video, like, sorry, here, and then just like follow me. So it's like D to D for G dominant to C for C major, D for D minor to D for G dominant to E for C major, ascending. Let's go to F. Common tone F is the 7th of the G F is the minor third of D minor. It's the 7th of G dominant and pulls to the 3rd of the C major. F is now back to the 3rd of D minor. And then the G for C major. So it's like, you know what I mean? And then, so F for D minor, G for G dominant, and then the G for C major. So let's go to the A. A gives us 3 options for neighboring voice leading. So A is the 5th of D minor, takes us back to the G for the G dominant, which is a common tone with a C major. A again, the 5th of D minor, but different path now. Takes us up to the B for the G dominant, which takes us up to the C for the C major. So listen to this, that's a very standard one. How much more standard can it get than this? So the next scenario is a little bit less predictable. The 5th of the D minor to the 3rd of the B, the 3rd of the G dominant, common tone B. the C major, because it's the major 7th. So it's like less predictable than going. You can go, you know what I mean? So last one, because it's beginning to get too analytical and I don't want this to turn into like a rocket science theory class. So C, the minor 7th of the minor 7th of the D minor, pulls back to the B, the major 3rd of the G dominant, and pulls up to the C, which is the root of C major. So listen to this. Is very, very standard. Or like, again, less predictable. When that 3rd of the G dominant does not resolve to the root of the C major. So when we don't do that, like the most predictable thing in harmony, we have the option of not doing this, and we just do instead, and keep that B as a common tone between your 5 dominant and your 1. So much less predictable. Sometimes it's good to be like, yeah, that's the predictable thing, I'm gonna do that. But sometimes it's good to break from that pattern. My point is to have the freedom of doing so. Okay, and let's continue. Let's go ascending now from the C of the D minor. Let's go to the D, which is the 5 of the G dominant, and then ascend to the E, which is the 3rd of my C major. So it goes. So it's. And then finally, last one. Standard. So some of them are standard and obvious, and you heard them like a million times before, and it's good to understand what it is that you heard a million times before now that you see it in front of you. And some of them are less predictable and give you an element of that's a nice way to go to my 1 chord. So my point is, if you study these like on one string all across your fretboard, perhaps in every string for a bit, it's not too much of a hassle. It's like maybe like a week of practicing, like half an hour per day or something like that. It depends who you are and what your entry level is, and of course, but like it usually doesn't take long for someone to really grasp this concept in a non-theoretical way. Because what my point here is that, and what I do in my guitar school, of course, when I teach my students, is like, okay guys, you don't need to learn more theory. You understand this? You know, like 1, 3, 5, 7, you know this on every chord, fine. Now let's put this into practice. Let's implement, let's put stuff into context. Like this is at least 80% of the job is implementing your knowledge. People have this misconception that, oh, I need to learn more in order to improvise. Oh, I need to learn more. No, just learn how to use the stuff that you already know, but learn how to use them creatively outside of the box and like cut to the chase, you know? So this is like a breakdown of what was happening in the paper. Let me just show you now how you can do 2 things with this. And this is basically the sum up of our lesson. The first thing is how to use this concept of like pulling from one chord tone to the next of the next chord in your bass. On day 1, God created the bass. Let's listen to this. Okay, you see what I mean? This could turn into my loop now. I could just loop what I just played for 3 minutes or something like that and create variations. So the bass. Let's turn all our chords. I understand if it's hard for you to follow because maybe you don't know your chords, your drop chords, your voicings and stuff. It's fine. Just like try to grasp the concept. Conceptualize this. So the D minor with a D on the bass can go to a G dominant with an F on the bass because, and this G dominant with an F on the bass, which is the seventh on the bass, pulls to the third on the bass of the C major. So listen to this: D minor, G dominant, E, C major, and the melody. Let me show you a few examples here, like a few practical and nice examples with bass lines. You don't need to have the root on the bass. Sometimes my students say, I noticed this. Some of my students say, I put the fifth on the root. I put the third on the root. And I'm like, sorry, so you mean that you think that the root is the bass? No, let's break away from this. This is so not true. The root does not have to be in the bass. You can put your third in the bass, you can put your fifth in the bass, you can put your seventh in the bass, you can put other stuff, but let's stop there. The root can go anywhere you want. It doesn't have to be in the bass. So right now I have the root on the bass for the D minor, yes. But then for the G dominant, I put the seventh in the bass. And for my C major, I put the third in the bass. So it's. So what did I do here? Let me explain. So I went like I explained this part. Okay. So after this one, which is a C major with an E on the bass, I go back to my C major with the root on the bass, the C, and then I go and I make a movement. It's like do do do, it's like C B A, and I put the A on the bass, which is the fifth of D minor, and I put the G on the bass, which is the root of G dominant. By the way, I remind you that I'm always going 2, 5, 1 all the way through. I'm staying consistent in my progression just so that it makes sense to you. It's like D minor, G dominant, C major. That's the reason why I picked a super simple chord progression. Imagine what would have happened if I picked like a tune with 16 chords. It would have been a disaster if you don't grasp this concept with 3 chords. So A, my fifth on the bass, G, my root of G dominant on the bass, and then I stay with G, which is the fifth of C major on the bass. So listen to that. What did I do here? So I went back to my D minor with D on the bass, to G dominant with F on the bass, to C major with G on the bass. Check this out. This one is the same voicing I played here. It's like G, C, E, B, 5, root, 3, 7, but an octave higher. G, C, E. So it goes. And then last, I played my D minor with the fifth on the bass, going to my G dominant with like a G on, let's go to the G. My A, my fifth on D minor, to the third of the G dominant. So it's like, listen to the bass movement. So the bass does what I did earlier here. You know, remember like earlier we did? Now we'll do that with the bass, like. It's like. when you learn tricks like that, make sure you can put them anywhere on the fretboard, like, you know what I mean? It's like, all right, let's go back to where we did it. Listen to this, what you can do now when you play like let's say I'm playing chords and bass together to accompany a musician who wants to sing or who wants to solo over my chord progression or over a tune that we are playing. And what I'll do, instead of sticking to the same, you can do that, no problem. I'm hoping that most of you who are watching this can do that, but my point is that, okay, how long will you do this for? Like the guy might be soloing for like 2 minutes or 3 minutes. You'll just go 2 minutes. And okay, you might do it for one tune because it serves the song. I hear that, for sure, I hear that. Simplicity is the number one way to go. But check this out. Simplicity because it's a choice, not because it's a limitation. Let's cut through the BS, people, finally. It's not about, yeah, I stay simple because I serve the song. Good, me too. But if I decide on another song that it serves it better to have more melodic movement, I will be able to do that, because whenever I stay simple, I honestly decide it because it's a choice. It's an artistic choice. It's not a limitation. Let's be honest with ourselves, okay? So, I mean, when I find out personally that, I went for it, but I couldn't do it, I will go back home after the gig and I'll just practice it so I'm able to do it whenever I want to do it. And then it's a matter of what you say. Yeah, I decide to be simple. Good. Decide to be simple. Don't force yourself to be simple. Anyway, enough of philosophy. On blues, let's say, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like be able to do this kind of stuff is wonderful. So all I'm saying, just to wrap up the concept of chordal playing, is be able to look at your chords not as caged geometrical shapes that you learn through a visual geometrical parrot mindset kind of system. Yes, that's how I personally call it, parrot mindset, because I was in this mindset for 10 years at least. It didn't serve me. It helped me learn the fretboard a little bit and get some kind of orientation, but the real orientation was that I acquired was when I was able to look at chords as melodies. And that's exactly what we did right now. We looked at chords as melodies on the bass. You know? You know what I mean? Sweet. So we can of course dive deeper into it. This is not even a lesson on how. This is a lesson on what. If you are interested on how, feel free to let me know in the comments. But this is a lesson on what. We need to like, this is something that people teach in various lessons, you know? We cannot really let you understand everything about the how in just half an hour. However, you know, it's good to open up your perspective into this and see how you can discover the how with yourself or with the help of a guitar tutor, even better if they know their stuff, of course. Let's go to the last part. So we learned to see the chords as melodies through the bass note. Check. Let's now go to look at the chords as melodies in the top note, the high note. Chord melody, chord soloing. So you know what I mean? It's like I'm playing a note in my phrase, and this note will turn into the top note of my chord. And where does this pull to the G dominant? To the fifth. And where does this pull into the C major? To the third. So listen to that. You know what I mean? And the whole concept here is to basically liberate the fretboard with this. Okay, here's a little bit on the how here. Check this out. D minor, G dominant, C major. 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 Okay, I stopped calling the chords because it gets annoying. You understand what the chords are. Let's go backwards and do the same thing. This is the how. Liberate the entire fretboard with voice leading. So like you want to go up, you can go all the way up. You want to go down, you can go all the way down. This is an exercise. You wouldn't do that in a song, of course. You wouldn't go like, okay, let me just go all the way to my... Yeah, you wouldn't do that. It's like too mechanical. But the point is, and that's my semi-final point. The point is, when you do that as an exercise, what it gives you, the ability to liberate the fretboard, and therefore when you actually play music and you don't practice anymore, you just play music, you are able to start from anywhere and go anywhere you want. And that anywhere you want doesn't have to be the entire fretboard, of course, but it might be like... You see, just staying in this area, I can stay here forever and make musical sense. I don't have to go to the entire fretboard. But I can be here in this random area that I just randomly, spontaneously picked and make musical sense because I've done this all across the fretboard. There's no damn dark spot in the fretboard. Okay, just want to communicate to you because you might be having some great blind spots regarding how to practice and what you need to practice, most importantly. So, yeah, and my last point here before we wrap this up is basically the concept of the pool. Let's dive deeper to the last layer of this lesson or masterclass, or call it what you will, about the pool. So here we have a pool about F. Let's start again from the F, like the same, I think the very first phrase that I played in the beginning of this was like something like, yeah, I like that sharp 5 here. Something like that. So check this out. I don't remember the exact phrase that I played in the beginning, but this was something along those lines. So it's like, this one is my anchor point number 1. I'll have 3 anchor points. Anchor point number 1, the minor third of the first chord, the D minor. Anchor point, the 2 chord, I mean the first chord in my progression, which is the 2 chord, okay? I don't want to confuse you. So the F of the minor third of the D minor. Anchor point 2, the D, which is the 5th of the G dominant. And anchor point number 3 of my melody, the E, which is the 3rd of the C major. So listen to my anchor points. Powerful anchor points, right? They like make so much musical sense. So the way to actually realize everything we've been talking about all this time is that between those anchor points, you can create a story from how you go from one place to the next place, to anchor point, from anchor point 1 to anchor point 2. It's basically the drama in between your target notes that makes this whole thing sound like a musical journey and not like an exercise. So it's like, so you know what I mean? It's like drama from anchor point 1 to anchor point 2. See? You hear that? And then from anchor point 2 to anchor point 3, which is this one, the drama was here. So yeah, this is the whole concept. You have those anchor points, the chord tones, that in between the anchor points, those two anchor points between them have a pull, have a gravitational melodic pull, and you utilize this pull to create drama, musical drama, to go from one to the next. This is the whole thing here broken down to you in very few words. So you can do this on the bass and you can do that on the melody as well. So that's it. That's it pretty much. It's like the one of the most nuclear aspects of my method, my approach when it comes to improvisation over chord changes. It's something that jazz musicians do, like, you know, the jazz musicians who understand harmony will know this kind of stuff like inside out. So my attempt here, my deeper purpose is basically, and why I'm showing this all to you, is basically, you know, I wasn't always like into jazz. I wasn't like I wasn't like always like studying jazz. There were periods of my life where I just was like rock, hard rock, you know, and eventually I got into blues and into funk and later into jazz and Latin, bossa, blah, blah, blah. And what this whole process and this whole approach did is it allowed me to get to a level of musical freedom and deeper musical awareness where I can use the jazz-oriented stuff in order to play rock, you know? How much more, and blues and anything. This is not stylistic. How much more meaningful these things are when you actually stop playing the guitar and start playing music instead. Yeah, there, I said it. This is the biggest statement of this session. It's like, start playing music, stop playing guitar, start playing music, you know? So that's all. I hope you enjoyed this, and yeah, feel free to reach out in the comment section below if you really want to learn more. I'll be happy to chat. So I sincerely hope that the time I spent to explain all of this and to demonstrate and go in this deep dive has really shed some light and can hopefully help you, if you are stuck on your improvisation, can help you get a fresh perspective to get unstuck and utilize your full musical potential, because everybody deserves to utilize, to realize, to achieve their full musical potential. And I hope that this is gonna be the case for you. Take care. Create some magic now. All right? Okay, bye.